Deus Ex Mankind Divided. So I first got this when I first got my PS4. As a big Deus Ex fan, it was one of my big prerogatives to actually get Deus Ex Mankind Divided when I got my PS4. So, and I got this actually rather late in the game, in the sense of I got it about a year and a half ago, or a year and a few months ago. So, but I really wanted to play this game. So when I first started playing it, I find out I'm part of TF29. I'm going through a mission, trying to make sure of everything. And of course, learning the new rules of hacking, new things of what I can do. Which most of it was the same abilities at first. But as you learn early on in the game, you actually have more augmentations, which of course I knew from previews and even other reviews. But I wanted to be able to experience it and find out that after Panchaea, there was Adam was missing for over a year. Not entirely sure what happened. Then he finds out he has augmentations that are new. Not entirely sure how he got it. And then you also find out that Adam is part of kind of almost like a secret agent, in the sense that he's trying to find what's going on with that inner circle that he kind of a little bit slightly dealt with in Human Revolution. So he gets with a girl named Alex Vega, who is part of the Janus Collective. And so they are trying to work on trying to find out what's really going on, and TF29 seems to be something in which Janus thinks that there's something important there, which you, of course, in the game, you do find out what's going on. There are previous characters in the game that do show up. So, for an example, you do get to talk with David Seraph. Unfortunately, it's not the same actor that actually is the voice, but you do get to talk to Seraph. You do get to see Bob Page, and you do see Eliza Cassan again. Although there's a little differences of what's going on with Eliza in the game. Then there's also some mentions in the game, and that is Megan Reed. It's Frank Pritchard. Although in the DLC in Mankind Divided, you actually do get to talk to him. Then there's also a mention with kind of a little ebook email kind of thing that you do receive, is from Quinn, and he's the one in the missing link that he gets to know a little bit, gets help from. And so you get a little bit of the history of how he got into not just TF29, but also in the Janus Collective. So when I looked around in the city and looked at the graphics and all that, of course, since this was my first PS4 game, I will have to say that I really enjoyed the graphics in this game. Now, of course, I can be biased on that because of the fact it was my first PS4 game, my first current gen game. So it brought me to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm going to really love the PS4. I'm really going to love how this is going to work for me. I'm going to love this generation of console gaming. Now, obviously, it isn't the total best, but it definitely is solid. It definitely has its thing. Are there better ones now? Yes, of course, because this is from 2016. So there should be better looking games by now. But at the time, I felt like this was the best looking game that I have. So, but when I look at the city does look pretty big to me when I first started, but more and more finding out that it isn't as big as I thought. But I will have to say that it actually is larger than it looks, in a sense that when you start exploring, you go through an apartment, You go through a variety of apartments. You have going through the underground. You have so many places to explore. It's and then with all the information that you do with your exploring is just phenomenal. And you'll eventually get one of your new augmentations will actually help you get even further upward, further than your jump does, and it really brings out a way for you to go places that you didn't think you could actually get to, and especially like in other games, it is interesting when you get that. But I will have to say that the whole story and everything that goes is just workable. I really loved one of the characters that helps you, Kohler. He has a bookstore, and although the bookstore is basically ruined, you can definitely look around, look at the books, be fascinated by how well and detailed they actually put that through. I I I've been pretty amazed with that, and with a lot of Deus Ex games, the graphics may or may not necessarily be always the best, but because of the level of detail of being able to interact with so many different things, that to me the graphics don't necessarily totally matter. But with this one, it felt like the graphics and their interactions were pretty good, really awesome. So definitely a plus for me. Now for augmentations, you definitely have all your old ones from Human Revolution, but you get your new augs, and you find out that you need actually something, and Kohler is supposed to be helping you out with that, and you're supposed to get a regulator and all that, but eventually you get to a point where you can use them. And so one of the ones that you can use is kind of a very sneaky kind of style, and it's like a stun kind of gun almost, but it is electrical to the point where you can even get with like cameras, turrets, and even robots to a certain degree, at least get them to be a little off for a little bit. And so the Tesla is part of your arm, and you can actually do more than just one or two. You can actually upgrade it to 4 or 5, and it just starts selecting it and just put it out. You can see some of that. You can actually see some of that in the video. Then you have your nanoblade, and that's like a big, huge knife, at least in the beginning. But you can upgrade it to be explosive, which, as you can see in the video, I use that against someone who is armored. And to me, that actually works out pretty well. You can even use it as a way to be a little bit kind of like an explosive that goes out a little bit so that it does hurt people around the area. There's also remote hacking, which I really love. You can hack practically almost anything in the sense of camera, turret, and the robot, although it only takes a certain amount of time. But you can do it in a sneaky kind of fashion, so you can sneak around so that they don't see you, you don't get to them. Or if you want to try to make real big shots at a big robot, you can do that. It definitely helps. Then there's the Icarus Dash, which is the one that you can actually go places more than you ever thought you could. You have to upgrade it though to do that. And I had one where the first time I played it, I was just going where I needed to go, trying to find it, trying to be as sneaky as I could, but I was having a really hard time with that. But in the mission, I was supposed to find something for a coworker for TF-29. So, but I found out that after I got it, that there was a place to actually go back, and that was pretty sneaky. So I thought when I did the New Game Plus part of Deus Ex Mankind Divided, that I'd try the other way, and I needed the Icarus Dash to do it. So when I finally got that, I found a way to actually get up to a particular point where I needed to go, and in the opposite direction. And I got there, went like a ghost, and I went back, and all was well. So that's one of the things I really love about Deus Ex. So then there's the Titan, and the Titan is like basically your own armor. And you can pretty much think of this as the armor from the Crisis games. So pretty much the same kind of like a nano armor of sorts. Now this game is obviously full of choice. Choice is probably a real big thing in this game, and that's one of the things I really loved about this game. One thing that you can do, in all the Deus Ex games, a lot of times it's more of this, basically how people talk is different, how certain things go are a little bit different, but sometimes there are big consequences for what you do, and depending upon what you do will depend upon what will happen. So, for an example, after I get a regulator from Otar, Otar is one of the people that you actually have to deal with, who's a mafia-style kind of guy. And he gives you a couple missions. Well, of course, you can always say no to it. Of course, if you can't even if you couldn't, let's say you couldn't make a deal with Otar, you can, of course, go ahead and steal it. Which of course I had to do with another game playthrough. But as you're doing a lot of different things, you can say no to it. You can actually, in one of them, you can actually lie about it. In other words, he wants you to kill somebody, and you decide to say, I'm going to save you, but I'm going to have to say, yeah, I took care of it. And then another part of it, or you can actually do it. You can actually kill the guy that he wants you to kill. And then there's another mission where you have to help another mafia lady for saving her nephew in a place, and you have to do it sneakily. Of course, you can say no, or just not do it, or you can try to be sneaky, and if you don't make it, that's one thing, and then they're out part if you do make it. Now, there was a time when I went ahead and with the mafia lady, I kind of thought, you guys are scum. So I killed them all, and everything seemed to be honky-dory, in that kind of degree. But when I came back from another mission, and I went down to see Kohler, he actually was dead on his operating chair. And it said in kind of a big letters and all that, I'm saying we had a deal, Otar, which surprised me, because this wasn't the the first time I had done it. It wasn't the first time any of that, but it may have been the first time I went to Kohler at that particular point in the game, and had that happen. So you get these particular choices, and even certain things that you do in the game will actually truly affect the last part of the game. There is a part where there could be either big destruction or you save people. So my thought with the story is that it kind of rolls with a lot of different parts of, even not just what I just said about the different varieties of what Adam needs to go through and find out, but also about just the location he's at and the people. The fact that a lot of it is about augmentation, about how augments are treated, the interesting matter, and there may have been some controversy to it, but I really enjoyed the idea of it. They had things like Aug's Lives Matter and things like that, and it just made you feel like they're trying to be kind of in the moment of the now. And in other words, art imitates life, life imitates art, kind of thing. So it kind of goes through that kind of way. And I really liked it. Now, one of the things that I had thought with being a Deus Ex fan has been about the original Deus Ex and about its story with the Illuminati, about the Inner Circle. In Human Revolution, you don't really see too much. You see Bob Page and has his little inner circle in the very beginning, but you really didn't feel too much about it. It kind of felt like it was kind of eh. So, but this particular for Deus Ex Mankind Divided, I will have to say I was highly impressed with seeing more of the inner circle. So, for an example, of course, you do have Bob Page. You do see Morgan Everett. You do see Lucius De Beers. Now, you don't not just see him in actually in the inner circle, but he happens to be in a magazine or in a book about his successes and all that, and so it was very interesting actually seeing that. And of course, you do see Joseph Manderley. He actually is one person. He talks to Miller because he happens to be Miller's boss. So you actually happen to be not just under Miller, but under Joseph Manderley, as of J.C. Denton under Joseph Manderley. Now, I looked up a little bit with online, and I will have to say that I saw something that was interesting. That Beth Duclair may have actually been in the inner circle, but then turned into the psychiatrist Delara Ozine, or Ozine. And I found that interesting that she could have actually somewhat been in it, like there's something to that. And I'm kind of hoping in the future we'll actually see a little bit more about that. I'm hoping that will actually work out real well. So with that, I will have to say that I'm hoping with the third installment will put through that point where I can actually play Human Revolution, Mankind Divided, the third game, and then play the original Deus Ex and be excited about how the story evolves with the Inner Circle people and how that whole thing goes. And I'd like to be able to see that. And I hope that Eidos Montreal will actually do that. In conclusion, I will have to say that this game wasn't really selling too well. I'm not entirely sure exactly why, although I think a lot of people are probably more interested in games like Call of Duty and whatnot. And if they were more into the open games, they wanted more open-ish, like Fallout or Far Cry and things like that. And for me, though, Deus Ex was kind of like an open world, but not really. It makes you feel like it's an open world, but you are still put through a lot of the story. And it actually is something I almost prefer because I feel like my attention will be more on that. But at the same time, I'm able to explore, I'm able to find things out, I'm able to see the story in a variety of different ways. I really feel like I really enjoy it. And that to me is a really big deal. After looking at some information, I have actually noticed though that the Canadians really loved this game. In 2016, it did receive the best game, best design, and best narrative, and the best console game. Which is interesting because I think a lot of it could be just that here in America where we see it a little bit differently. We want a different way of looking at games, and there are a lot of people that do the multiplayer, and that is one of the big selling kind of things. And I guess that's why people like EA are really into that. They want the money, they want this, but they really don't go as much with the story anymore. The current Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is just one that I probably will never get because I'm just not really into multiplayer. I find that I will play it probably, but I probably won't be playing it for very long. Whereas this game, I would probably constantly play it. And so, I really feel that this game really brings that through and brings it in. And I really want this game to really make people feel like this is a very, very good game and that it should be played. I have heard and read about certain reviews that have actually said that, especially PC, where there were a lot of glitches. I'm kind of hoping, at least with the PC version, that they've actually dealt with all those glitches, because that makes it a really big deal when it actually stops your game and you can't actually play it. And I think that was one of the reasons why it probably had a lower score. Whereas all the console games really had pretty high scores. And it was between 8.5 to about 9.2, depending upon who did the review. And so, all in all, I mean, for me, I will say it's a must buy. It definitely is something that you really would want. At the PlayStation Store, I believe it actually is a pretty good price. Or at least it was a while ago when I was just looking around just to see what it was. But, all in all, I give it a definitely 2 thumbs up. And if you haven't gotten it and played it yet, I suggest you do. And I'm sure it's at a pretty good price. Thank you and have a great day. If you like this video, please click like. Also, if you like this video and other videos, please subscribe. And if you want to be annoyed by the notification, go ahead and click the bell. You can see more on Facebook and also Twitter. On Twitter, I am ContemplativeGK. Thank you and catch you later.